Welcome back to another C3 Gaming Pickle Farm video. This is part 3 of a 7-part Pickle Farm series. We started this series because we are obsessed with pickle farms on the DonutSMP. Part 1 is the Pickle Farm Basics. We give a high-level overview about the farms that we plan on covering in the series, but we also cover some very important basics on the mechanics of pickle farming. Everything from how pickles spread to placing coral and keeping it alive. The second video is our first tutorial, which is the Duck V2, which is a pickle farm of our own creation. We believe it is the cheapest and best starter pickle farm on the DonutSMP today. So if you've not watched either of those videos, pause it, go check it out. We'll still be here when you get back. Colin, tell us what farm we're building today.
The TherenMC V2.
Now, what do you like about the TherenMC V2? Is it still a good farm for the DonutSMP?
It's mostly for survival and hardcore, but it's more iconic on the Donut SMP. It's one of the first pickle farms.
And it was a fabulous pickle farm when it was first released. So we felt like it is important to do a tutorial to show new and even experienced players how to build it. And like Colin said, it's still very relevant for hardcore and survival worlds. Some of the other pickle farms are just way too big and won't work in your hardcore and survival world. Before we get started building the TherenMC V2, I do want to give you a quick little teaser about the project that we're working on for video 7. This is the Duck V3. We've spent a lot of time and testing and building to get this to work, and it is finally finished. The Duck V3 is a single module that contains 2 farms. It is fully stackable and joinable. It is the smallest, fastest, cheapest, and most profitable pickle farm on the DonutSMP, and that's a claim that we hope will stick and survive for a very long time. But unfortunately, this is just a teaser of what to expect in video 7. For now, let's get building the TherenMC V2. Before we get started in building the TherenMC V2 pickle farm, I do need to make a correction on our Pickle Farm Basics video where I said that the TherenMC is 15 wide and 22 long. It is actually 21 long. There's a huge gap that we didn't account for. I think we originally had the water stream over, but we realized we didn't need that space. So if you're going to follow along, just know that you only need 15 wide and 21 long. That's what we have marked out for you today. We're going to start off by making a few assumptions. We assume you have watched part 1 and hopefully part 2 of our Pickle Farm series. The basics of coral and water manipulation, as well as the mechanics of pickle farms, are all in that video. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to leave a comment. We'll be happy to answer them. However, most of your questions are probably going to be answered in one of those 2 videos. So if you have not watched that, I would go check it out. Pause it. We'll still be here when you get back. Let's get started with building. So you're going to look at the corner where the width, the 15 long width is on your left, the 21 long length is in front of you, and we're going to count 3 over. So 1, 2, 3. Place your first block. Now I will be building with glass for the majority of this farm, so you can see it. Plus, most of my pickle farms are glass because I like to watch the pickles as they spread in the farm. This can be any block of choice. I will call out when you need specific types of blocks for things like redstone. So after you place your first block, we're going to count back 10, so 11 in total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. When you get to the end, you're going to count up 1, and then you're going to go 5 across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to move back down, and you're going to do another row of 11 on the outside of your 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And if you followed along, you should be back at your border. You're going to count back 1 and do the same thing. 5 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So your outline should look like this. This is going to be the pool for our water where we're going to place the coral on top of. The TherenMC V2 is a two-parter, so you're going to skip a block and you're going to do the exact same thing, counting down 11 and across 5, finishing it off with a total width of 7 blocks. The rest of the build on the right side of the farm, and when I refer to left and right, it is looking at the farm with the 2 blocks at the base. Anything to the right, I'll refer to the right side of the farm. Anything to the left, I'll refer to the left side of the farm. Everything from this point is going to be an exact mirror image. So as I build out the one on the left, Colin will be building out the one on the right. We are going to take our pistons. We're going to go to the part of the farm that has 5 blocks in width, and we're going to place 2 facing you. We're going to skip a block and place 2 more facing you. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. This is going to be what shifts the pickles back and forth, or rather the coral back and forth, which will pop off the pickles. We're going to grab our block. We're going to place a block in the middle of our pistons, and we're just going to build up our wall by 1, and this will create the perimeter of our coral base. Again, if you have not watched our tutorials, the part 1 or part 2 of our Pickle Farm series, the next part you can get more information regarding keeping coral alive. The next step is to hop down into your pool, and we are going to waterlog the whole thing. So this is going to keep your coral alive. This is not necessary to have it completely waterlogged. However, there is going to be a gap when the floor shifts, and not waterlogging it could result in pickles ending up underneath it. So it's just best practice to waterlog it. Take your coral, go to the front side of your farm, or the top side, place coral on the pistons, and you're going to count back 6, leaving a single block gap between the pistons and the coral. And you're going to do this for all 4 rows. And again, this is an exact mirror image. You're going to do it on both sides of your farm. Alright, now the next part is going to be where we add our top coral block in our dispenser, so make sure you have that in your inventory. Go to the side of the farm where your coral is touching, place a building block, and grab your water bucket, and you're going to place water in between each row of coral. Go back to the block we placed, grab your coral, and run all the way to the very end, like so. Now the coral does not move, so it is okay to grab your building block, place a block at the end of your coral, and finish it up on your wall. Go back to the side where the coral is touching, and you're going to build up 2 blocks. These are building blocks. They are not temporary, so whatever you're building with, make sure that's what you're using, and grab your dispenser. Most tutorials will have you place this after you already placed your water, but I can't stand placing blocks with water pushing me around, so I'm doing you a favor by having you do it now. Go right up to the coral, crouch, look up at your top block, place your first dispenser, and we're going to run dispensers all the way to the end of your coral, which in our case is 6. The piston push limit is 12, so you could technically expand this even further, but we're trying to stick as close to the TherenMC original as possible because this is his farm. So your farm should now look like this. Finish it off with another 2 blocks at the end and connect it to your dispensers. Now you're going to grab some packed ice, and I should have had that out for you already. I'm going to grab some packed ice, and on the wall that is retaining the coral in the water, right next to your coral, you're going to place packed ice all the way to the end. You are going to include the section with the gap because pickles will flow out here as well. The packed ice is where the pickles will exit the farm. So if you use anything other than packed ice, there is a potential for them to get stuck. However, the water will be flowing on top of it. So if you do not have access to packed ice, other building blocks are always an option, but we do prefer the packed ice method. Take your building block, in our case it's glass, and go ahead and finish the border around your coral. Skipping the ice in the middle, we are going to go up one, and skipping the ice on the outside, we're just going to finish off the walls, going up one more row. Grab some temporary blocks. You are going to be breaking these, so whatever you have available, we're going to place a couple temporary blocks in the farm next to your pistons. Be sure to remember that these are temporary blocks because if you turn the farm on and these blocks are still in place, you will break your farm. So these are temporary blocks. Place temporary blocks all the way along the inside of your farm, leaving only the top row of coral exposed. Do this on both sides, like so. And then we're going to grab our water buckets. Take your water bucket, and starting at the glass block or the coral, it doesn't matter. We're just going to place water all the way along the farm, making sure that there is a source block on top of each coral and then on this middle block. If you did everything correctly, your water should now be flowing like this. The pickles are going to flow out of the farm to the side. Now, you could do this step first, but I did want to show you the water flowing. The water is going to flow over the side, and if we used any kind of solid block to prevent it from flowing over, the pickles will not be able to exit the farm. So we're going to grab some walls. I'm going to use stone brick wall. You can use any wall that you like. On the side of your glass blocks, you're going to just place your first wall, and you're going to run it, all the way along the edge of your packed ice. You're going to do the same thing on the opposite side of the farm, but here in the middle, you only have to run one wall. They will share this middle wall. And as you can see, when you place the walls, it does stop the water from flowing, but it does leave a slight gap, and this is just big enough for the pickles to flow out of. Make sure that your farm looks like ours, where the water is flowing from the source pickle under your dispensers, which we have not placed yet, but that's where the source pickle will be. All right. Now this is only part of the water manipulation that we're going to have to do to make these pickles flow out correctly. So jump back into your farm and remove the top layer of temporary blocks. The temporary blocks next to the pistons we are going to leave just for now. Don't forget that they're there. They do have to come out eventually. But take just the top layer of temporary blocks off, because we need to water log or create source blocks of water on every single piece of coral and on these temporary blocks. So with your water bucket, just place water along the spine of the farm and on the coral closest to you next to the packed ice. Jump to the other side, do the same thing, making sure that every piece of coral has source block of water on top of it. Now this will create an infinite water source, so if you do one side first, you can grab your buckets, jump to the other side by pulling water out of your farm. It will not break it at that point. And you can see that if we throw an item in, the item will float up and it will hit that water stream and then fall out of your farm. If you do not place water next to the source pickle coral and the packed ice, what will happen is when the pickles pop off, sometimes they will not hit the flowing water and they will just sink back down to the bottom. By adding source blocks will cause the item to float up and out of your farm. So we are now done with this temporary block, so go ahead and delete those. And by delete, I mean break. And that is the inside of your farm, pretty much complete. We are going to grab our building block again. This time it does have to be a solid block. It cannot be a transparent block or any type of block that is not able to carry a redstone signal. On the outside of your farm, so this is where the farms start to mirror each other. On the outside of your farm, we're going to place it right next to our dispenser. And we're going to run that all the way down to the back of the farm. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side, making sure that it is a solid block. We're going to grab hoppers because an automatic pickle farm doesn't make sense to run manually. So the easiest way to constantly load your dispensers is by having some kind of storage system on top. So we are going to place hoppers directly into the dispensers opposite of our solid blocks. From here, we are able to switch back to any building block we want, and we are going to just enclose the top of the farm, making sure that every single block is covered because we do not want our pickles jumping out. And as Colin has kindly reminded me, we have not placed our pickles in yet. So before you completely trap yourself like I was about to do, hop in your farm, grab your pickle, and place one pickle on each coral block under your dispenser. Thank you, Colin. So switch back to your glass blocks if you're following exactly along with me, and finish off the roof. Now your farm should look like this. There is some artistic style choices that you can make on your own. You don't have to cover the walls if you don't want to. The pickles, once they reach the wall, won't be able to pop up out of the farm. However, I like to have just a nice solid surface at the top. We are going to turn our attention to the front of the farm now. Grab your redstone solid blocks, or the solid blocks that we will be using redstone on, and we're going to place them on the back of each piston. You can make it look uniform by placing it on the centerpiece, but this one does not matter. The solid blocks are going to be what power the pistons. So again, transparent blocks will not work, and make sure that you do the same thing on the other side. You are going to go up one block from the piston on the outside of your farm. You're going to go diagonally one more until you reach the wall that is even with your packed ice. So your wall should look exactly like this. The rest of it can be left open. However, we are going to be placing some blocks up here in a moment. So I just like making everything look uniform and covering it in. However, you cannot place anything on top of this corner block. This is going to be reserved for our redstone. So make sure that your farm looks a little something like this, and I'll just put those blocks there. Go to the back side of the farm and do the same thing. Solid blocks on your pistons. Up one from your furthest outside piston, and then one up diagonally from there. Filling in anything you want with the block of your choice. If you are using glass, if you are not using glass, then there is no need to switch blocks at this point. Take your redstone. This is where we start building the redstone that will make this farm operate. Take your redstone from the inside of the farm, Run it all the way along the blocks that we just placed on the outside of our pistons up until you get to this corner. Go to the front of your farm and do the same thing going down. Now, if you are following me on why we're using solid blocks and not transparent blocks, redstone cannot activate redstone components through glass. The reason we're using redstone or the solid blocks underneath the redstone in the corners is in Java, redstone can connect going up glass, but it cannot transmit signal going down glass. So you do need to use solid blocks on this corner as well, because if you use glass, it will connect and you'll wonder why in the world the farm isn't working. So make sure that this is exactly like we have here, or your farm may not function correctly. Alright, and that is all the redstone wiring for the pistons. Now let's create the clock that is going to drive the pistons and your dispensers. So on the corner blocks where we have our redstone, you're going to place a block on top of the redstone, and simply placing the block on the redstone will elevate it up. So that's all you need to do to get the block in the correct position. We are going to finish off the roof by extending this all the way across until you reach this little arch that we created earlier. We're going to go to the back of the farm and do the exact same thing, placing our solid block, followed by glass or your block of choice all the way to the arch that we created earlier. So you are going to have 4 corners in your farm with solid blocks. Now go to the front of the farm, and on either side of the wall, even with your corner blocks, we're going to place 2 more solid blocks, and this is going to be where our clock lives. Before we get to the clock, we are going to do some redstone wiring to our dispensers. So from the right corner block, again, looking at the farm, the front is opposite of the 2 block border gap. To the right of the right block, we're going to place redstone all the way up until 1 block before the corner. We're going to grab a repeater, and we're going to leave that on a 1 tick. We're going to go off of our corner block all the way to the back corner block, leaving a 2 block gap, placing 2 repeaters, both on a 2 tick. Off the back corner block, we're going to go over 2 blocks. You'll know that you're in the right position if it lines up with your solid blocks, and we're going to place a repeater on 1 tick. You're going to take redstone and run it all the way along the top of those solid blocks. Now you're going to do the same thing on the left side of the farm with 1 exception. Repeater on 1 tick, 2 repeaters on 2 tick, but the repeater leading to the solid blocks next to your dispensers needs to be on 2 ticks, because this is going to fire slightly after the right side of the farm, so we need to make sure that it dispenses when the coral is in the correct position. Grab your repeaters, and you're going to make a little square starting from the center looking at the right side of the farm. You're going to take this on a 2 tick. You're going to face the back of the farm off of the right block, back of the farm on a 2 tick. You're going to go 1 block adjacent to the repeater we just placed, place that on a 3 tick, and then place a final repeater facing into the left block, also on a 3 tick. You're going to take redstone dust and connect the 2 repeaters, and our clock is complete. So here is an aerial view of the redstone circuit we just made. Pause the video if you need to look at it, and we will move on to the storage system. Now your farm is pretty much ready to turn on. However, like I said before, the hoppers are here because I don't like loading dispensers by hand, and this is an automated farm. So we're going to place a double chest on top of the hopper and the dispenser. This is slightly different than other TherenMC tutorials, and I'll show you why here in a moment. But place a double chest on top just like that, making sure that you have a 5-block gap in between the chests. We need this gap for a switch. To start this farm, you need to apply a redstone signal to either corner of your clock, and if you place it too slow and break it, your farm will break. Your pistons will fire, but the return side will not get the redstone signal fast enough to return it, and you're just going to have to restart your clock. To restart it, you have to break the redstone, place another one back, and try it faster. And you can see that time I got it right. I placed the redstone torch fast enough, and the farm is operating. You cannot place a redstone torch or a lever, because if you do, the clock will stay activated, and even if you break it, your clock will not reset. The only way to reset it is to break the corner, let it turn off, and try again. Now, that's not my favorite way of doing this, so I am going to show you a switch that you can use yourself to turn this on and off more efficiently. Start with the same clock, 2233. Grab another repeater, face it into the repeater opposite of the one between the two blocks, so it has to be facing into the repeater. Leave it on a 1 tick. You do need an observer, so it is an extra component from the original design. You're going to stand on the left side, so left side of the farm. On the left block, you're going to place it next to the repeater that we just put down, making sure that the red dot of the observer is facing the corner, and make sure that the observer's face is facing the back of the farm. You're going to put a piece of redstone dust in front of the observer, and you'll see that that has activated our farm. So that is the basic concept of how we're going to turn it on and off. Right now, all that's going to do is turn it on. There's no way to turn it off, so we need to grab another repeater. On the side of the repeater opposite of the observer, we're going to place it down, and we're going to put it on a 4 tick. Grab some redstone dust from the corner of the part that is currently lit up. We're going to run it down towards our chest and over into our repeater, and we are going to finish it off with a lever. Place the lever down in front of the, or behind rather, the repeater that we placed first, and our switch is complete. If your clock is still lit up, break it, place it back down, and now you have a switch that will turn the farm on and turn it off. The reason this works is when you face a repeater into another repeater, it will lock it, keeping the state that it was currently in. So if you had this on a 1 tick, the chances of locking it while the repeater is lit up is very high because it's on a 3 tick. So if this happens, you would have to break it and completely defeat the purpose of the switch. So make sure that this one is on a 4 tick, this one is on a 1 tick, and when you turn the switch on, it actually locks the locks the repeater in an off position. And the only way to turn it back on is to turn the switch off, which will send a pulse from the observer and start your clock. And since an observer pulses so quickly, we don't have to worry about placing the redstone torch and breaking it. So you don't have to do this. A redstone torch works just fine if you can break it quickly enough. So let me go ahead and turn the farm off, and we will get to the water collection system. Alright, now that we have our clock completed, we have our bone meal storage system. Our farm it's running, it's making you pickles, but what good is a manual collection for an automatic farm? Makes no sense. So we're going to do a water stream. There's 100 different ways to do a water stream. We're going to just do a real simple one to give you an idea of how to collect the pickles that you're earning from this farm. So I'm going to go to the left side of the farm, which is the one that I've been building. Colin's going to go to the right, and we're just going to mirror this exactly. Take your building block, and underneath the corner of the wall on the outside of the packed ice, so this is the front of the farm, we're going to place a block down. We're going to start building a perimeter all the way until you reach the corner of the border. You're going to go back, and directly under the first packed ice, we are going to place a piece of packed ice on the ground, and we're going to run that all the way. Actually, we're only going to run it 7 blocks, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Get your building blocks, build up one more to contain the water. And the reason that we're only using 7 blocks is because water has a maximum travel distance of 8 blocks. So we actually want the water to drop down a level. So we'll go ahead and place a bucket of water directly under our first packed ice on top of the packed ice we just placed. And you'll see that the water dropped down. So you're going to take your packed ice and you're going to break out blocks all the way to the corner. Whoops. One shy of the corner. There we go. And we're going to break it out all the way until we reach the middle of the farm. The blocks that we just broke out, we're going to replace with packed ice. And we're going to put our perimeter up. And you'll see that the water has actually leaked under the farm because I didn't put any water here. Any blocks here. So if this is, if you're following along exactly as us, part of that perimeter is going to be to place it under these blocks directly under the solid blocks powering our pistons. You're going to do the same thing on the inside of the farm, except where the packed ice meets, all you have to do is place 2 blocks, blocking the water from escaping, followed by 7 blocks, placing your water bucket, and then breaking out the last 2. Now you'll have a gap just like this. This is going to be where we start our bubble column. So before we can create a bubble column, we have to block off the water. I'm going to grab a sign, place it right there. And your water stream should look like this. Now if you're wondering about the 2-block gap, the pickles will have enough momentum to make it the rest of the way. If you're worried about them getting stuck, you can place a sign somewhere and extend it, but that just uses more signs. So we're just opting to let them flow over the last 2 pieces of packed ice. Grab your building block and go up 1 directly above your sign. And you are going to need to place 2 more signs under each of your building blocks where your bubble column is. And if you watched our part 2 of our Pickle Farm series, we cover bubble columns in depth. So just make sure that you watch that video if any of this doesn't make sense to you. But build it up as high as you want it and then run it to your collection system. And we'll go ahead and waterlog it real quick. And let's just tidy this up. Alright, and now you have a fully automated, fully functioning pickle farm. This is the TherenMC V2. We'll go ahead and load it up with some bone meal so you can see that the farm is fully operational. Well, we have loaded up this farm. It's ready to go. But before we turn it on for you, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to TherenMC for designing this pickle farm. The reason we wanted to do a tutorial on it is to give you a block by block tutorial on how to build it. It is quite an iconic pickle farm on the Donut SMP. I believe it's one of the first pickle farms that people really started using. So I'm going to put a link to his YouTube channel in the description. Go check it out. Give him a like. Give him the credit that is due to him for his hard work on this. A few thoughts about this farm before we end the video. It is still a very relevant farm for creative and survival worlds. It is a fully automatic farm that doesn't need hopper minecarts and rail systems that you see on other tutorials. This is the one of the best farms if you are wanting to build this on your own world. There are bigger and better farms for the Donut SMP. However, this one is most suitable for your hardcore survival worlds because of the hopper speed, which has been increased in the Donut SMP. So some of the more advanced farms are not as efficient, and chances are you don't want hundreds of thousands of pickles in your survival world. So check this one out. It is a great farm. We had a lot of fun building it. I'm CD3 Daddy.
I'm C3DG Minecraft.
And if you've not already done so, like, subscribe, ring that bell. The next Pickle Farm in our Pickle Farm series is going to be the Frozone V3, followed by the 3706 V2, the 3706 V3 after that, and then our project that we've been working on, we're excited to bring to you the Duck V3, which we think tops every farm on the list. So thank you so much again for watching, and we'll see you next time.